Do you know that money, or are you going to figure that out in the next 10 days? Or is that not your department?
No, we have a pretty good idea. We're going to be doing some brainstorming amongst the executive team to make sure that we address all the needs that we have moving forward and making sure that we use those monies the best that we can.
Okay. Well, that's pretty general. Can you be any more specific?
Well, there's a couple of projects that we have already identified. They're still preliminary. So, in the next couple of days, we're going to make sure that we lock them in.
Okay, that's a polite way of saying you don't want me to put you on the spot until you have executive approval. Is that right?
You got it.
Okay. Let me ask my colleague, Mr. Rafael Sosa, if he has any follow-up questions. Mr. Sosa.
Thank you, Mr. Hempling. That's clear for now.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else, let me start with you. Well, hold on. Let me stick with you, Ms. Vasquez-Bras. Do you expect this situation to repeat itself over the next couple of months where you get this good news that came after July 3rd and we have to have a meeting like this to figure out what to do? Do you expect this to happen again?
Well, Mr. Hempling, I sure hope so.
Okay.
Because it will be good news for Puerto Rico. I know that there's right now $20 billion that's being allocated again in Washington from the OE funds that were allotted for something else. And we're trying to tap into those as well. And I know the governors too. So if that happens and we can get some more funding, we'll be back here.
Okay. Looking forward to that. By the way, Ms. Sanchez-Bras, now don't answer anything that your lawyer is going to tell you not to answer, but are you familiar with the report that was filed by my colleague, Mr. Guimel Cortez, about federal funds? Does that reach your desk, or did you have anything to do with that yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I was just curious about it. Okay, let me see if there's anybody who wants to ask any other questions, and don't ask her to give up the case, okay? Just ask information. Anybody have a question for Ms. Sanchez-Bras? Well, you're getting off easy today, Ms. Sanchez-Bras. Let's see if I have any other questions. That's all I have. Nobody else then? Okay. Well, we'll stick around for a minute, Ms. Sanchez-Bras.
Sure.
Ms. Chambers, Mr. Brady first, then I want to ask Ms. Chambers a question. Mr. Brady, go ahead.
Well, this may actually have been the question that you were going to ask Ms. Chambers, and it's not for Ms. Bras.
Okay.
I was wondering if LUMA anticipates anything similar, either from the DOE funds or otherwise, because I believe it was an even larger pot of money than just what Genera received.
You're muted, man. There you go.
I'm not able to. I don't have that information. But if the company has anything they want to offer, I don't have. I mean, I've read about it, but I really don't have it. I know as far as I know, we don't have anything now.
All right, Ms. Chambers, any thoughts on how we're handling this kind of process in case it gets repeated by LUMA? Any recommendations, Ms. Chambers?
I think we might have some concerns about keeping some flexibility, but we really didn't have a lot of time to study this. We did, plan to, if we do get some funds, obviously we would file something to show how that works into the revenue requirement. But, as far as I know, you're just asking for them to update their Exhibit 23 right now.
Okay. All right. So the answer is no suggestions right yet. But let's just talk about this out loud, all of us, for a moment. Everybody knows what we've got here. We've got between now and December 19th to make an evidentiary record. Everybody knows that we have between now and April 19th to get an order out. Everybody knows that there's not going to be 100% certainty about what the money is or what the costs are or anything else. Everybody knows that we're going to have to try to set rates with a series of moving targets and do it with smiles on our face. So all I can say right now is the only solution that I have seen to handle all this coming and going is the formula that Mr. Cortez has in his report. And, we've gotten no comeback on that yet because people have yet to file their responsive testimony. But without testifying myself, what I understood was valuable in his document was that it had a method for dealing with the reality that facts will change. And I want simply to emphasize the importance of people studying that document and having some reactions to it, and in doing so, taking into account the type of facts that we're dealing with today. Because we are not going to open and reopen the record after December 19th. I promise you, we're going to need all those remaining months for deliberations and order writing. And so we're going to have to find a way to set rates that are just and reasonable and that reflect these changing facts as they go without anybody insisting that there's perfection. That's all I can say. That's my short testimony on the subject, and where the whole reason for Mr. Cortez's testimony is to stimulate creative ideas and get us to a point after that panel closes where the Bureau has a way to deal with all this while protecting people's procedural rights and limiting what comes from the customers. That's all I can say. I think it's pretty obvious. Any comments? Ms. Vasquez, please.
No, we don't have any additional comments for now.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, start talking about this, and we will probably have some thoughts, but I don't have anything definite now, but we understand the issue
Okay.
and why it's important.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rafael Sosa, anything from you left on this subject before we go on to some others?
No, Mr. Hempling. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I know I surprised everybody with additions to the agenda, but I felt as long as we had so many fine people with us today, we could make some progress and I could share some tentative thoughts. So I don't know who got to print what out, so give me a second to share my screen. And pay no attention to all the many other emails that I get. You should be able to, because I don't know how to close that side of the screen. Just take a look, and you can see now, Ms. Chambers, I can see you. Can you see my email with the these items?
Yes, Mr. Hempling, I can.
Okay. Well, let's start with these are all pretty important, and so I'm looking today for initial reactions. Nobody's going to bind themselves, but we're running out of days, so I've got to make some decisions pretty quick. So the first topic is the possible treatment of all of the information that's on the Axion platform. And this is what I'm thinking of out loud. Okay, and I'll take whatever comments you have today, and then we'll just agree on a date when you can give me some written comments. 3 categories here. So you have ROIs that are attached to or cited. And now I don't mean just the PREB testimony, I mean everybody's testimony. You've got ROIs that are attached to or cited in testimony, and your objections to those will be part of your existing deadlines for objecting to testimony. Is everybody clear on that? Ms. Chambers, since you're the only one I can see right now, I'm going to keep asking you to play with me on this. So you got that, okay?
Yes.
Now, can you remind me, because I'm losing track, I think I just changed one of the deadlines for that. Is that correct?
I've lost track. I'd have to ask Yahara, are you on the line? Can you remind me that? I know that the deadline from.
Well, forget it. It's coming soon.
It was like 3 days. 3 days of extension. I remember,
All
but
right.
I don't.
Okay, it's coming.
Monday. Yeah.
Okay, Monday. Thank you. Now the second category is this. The second category are ROIs offered during questioning. Now, originally, I thought I would require everybody that we would get through all the ROIs ahead of time, and I would do with all the objections ahead of time. And frankly, I looked at my consultant's workload, and I thought about everybody else's workload, and I said, there aren't going to be that many objections. I'll handle them during the hearing. And so that is what I'm thinking of, Ms. Chambers. Well, what do you think? Do you think you're going to be doing a lot of objecting during the hearing?
Well, it depends on what comes in, but yeah, I don't expect. You're asking me to are you talking about existing ROIs or new
No,
ones?
I'm asking you a question you can't answer, so don't bother.
That's all right.
That's what I think what I'm going to do is wait for the hearing rather than make everybody go through them all right now. But I really am going to stress that it better be a good objection. And, you know, I've made this speech a number of times now. You are here, I know, to protect your clients, but you are also here to help the tribunal. And the tribunal needs to know what it needs to know. And you know that relevance is a pretty broad concept. Now, it's the third bullet that I expect people are going to want to comment on. Let me explain my thinking. So the third bullet here concerning the ROIs is that what I would like, and I'll tell you why in a moment, what I would like is to have all the ROIs, all of them, in the record without our having to go through them all in the next week and a half. And I'll tell you why. This is going to be a 400 or 500 page decision. We have 6 weeks to get this hearing done. We're going to do the best we can. I feel certain that at some point in the 3 months between January and April, somebody among the commissioners is going to say, hey, what about such and such? Can't we put that in the record? And I don't want to be saying, no, you can't, because we didn't get around to putting it in the record between, during the hearing. And so my thought is, how about if I admit all the ROIs now, not today, but by order next week, and you all have between now and December 15th to decide what you don't like. Okay, and in other words, you got a lot of time, you got counsel, you got 7 weeks to do it, and you let me know by the 15th that you have objections. I can rule on them over that last weekend, and we're done with it. In that way, I've maximized the chance that my client can use what's here. And I'm not going to ask you to commit today, but I would like to hear if people see something terribly wrong about this idea. You want to start, Ms. Chambers? Any thoughts for now?
If we have identified a few that might be, I guess there's some that have been updated, and we might not want to interject the first go round, or there might be a reason for that. Could we identify them earlier? I think
Yes.
having the December 15th is great, but if I know ahead of time, I'd just let you know.
Yeah. Of course, the sooner I get, the sooner I'm told I have to do something, the quicker I can get it done. I move pretty fast, and the less I have to do on December 15th. But of course, that's your drop dead date. That's to give you all the time you can. But sure, you can object ahead of time.
Thank you.
Again, nobody's committing today, but I am going to ask you to think about it because I want to make a ruling on this. Are there anybody else want to comment on this first item about the treatment of ROIs? It's not your last chance to do so. Okay, people are holding keeping their powder dry right now. So can I ask, I don't want to have to write 2 orders. I want to write 1 order. So can I ask you to give me your objections, if any? You don't have to say anything if you don't object to this concept, the 3 bullets you see under the first bullet, by Monday evening. What you're really asking yourself is, can you find the time between now and December 15th to go through the whole kit and caboodle and tell me what you don't like, knowing that I'll act on things as they come in? That's the question. And I also want to suggest that this is good for everybody, because you might be writing again, I hope, what are going to be proposed orders in January and early February, and you might come across an ROI that you failed to get in the record during the hearing, and you don't want to have that pressure right now of having to find it all now. So I realized as I was thinking this through that it's kind of good for everybody. Okay, enough on that. Monday evening is the deadline for comments. No comments, please, just objections. 1 moment, please. Okay, next. Can I get Mr. Brady? Let me see you so I can see somebody else.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so basically what I'm doing here, colleagues, is trying to create more hours for other panel topics But trust me, you probably picked up that I think the debt issue is pretty important. But my question here, Mr. Brady, where'd you go? Well, I don't even see you, but that's okay. Mr. Brady, was at this point, what more is there to learn from a debt panel?
Thank you.
Go ahead, because I'll quickly tell you my thinking. I mean, we know outer amounts, we know the legacy amount, we know what the FOMB has said. We have that information because I asked for it back in the filing requirements. What I know is that nobody at this point, nobody in pre-filed testimony is putting a number in. We've debated a bit the pros and cons of doing that. We heard a little bit about preemption. And my question is, what would we gain from a debt panel? And I don't mean to ask that facetiously. Mr. Brady.
Yes, thank you. We're in general agreement that the debt issues are legal and policy in nature and therefore can be addressed through post-hearing briefing, and that a cross-examination factual panel would not really add anything to the issue at this point. Okay. Well, nobody's committing today. Once again, I'll give you till Monday to change your mind about this, and then I'm going to issue an order. Is anybody else who would like to discuss the question of the debt panel today? Anybody? Let's see, LA. I don't know who that is, but please speak. Please show yourself and speak. Mr. Agait, how are you?
Yes, fine, thank you. Mr. Hempling, I'm worried that the first time that we would be in the presence of a specific proposal from the bondholders on what the number of the required debt to be paid would be after all the hearings and on the brief stage, as Mr. Brady has said. I think that we should have a number from the bondholders before, so we can decide whether we want to examine somebody concerning that number, one, and two, request from the bondholders to be consistent that they entered this procedure because they said that Luma's proposal proposed zero for debt payment, and that was contrary to law, and now saying that the rate should go out with zero in the rider. So that's something that we should have an opportunity to see and discuss before the end of the process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Agait. Again, I'm just the hearing examiner. Let me share, but I am responsible for determining the scope of the hearings and the use or non-use of the panels. Don't go away. Come back here with your video, please. This is my thought in response to what you said. Number one, we have, because it was required by the February 12th filing requirements, two numbers that are in an exhibit. Unless somebody objects to it, and I don't expect there will be an objection to it, we will have in the record two numbers: the legacy debt number and the FOMB proposed number. Is that correct, Mr. Brady?
Yes, if by FOMB number you mean what was proposed in their prior plan of adjustment, I think that's right. And then yes, I believe PREPA also included the petition date amount of principal and interest on the debt. Yeah. So not post-petition interest.
So those numbers, Mr. Agait, are in the record already. Now, I guess it's possible that bondholders will have their own view as to if something goes into rates, what it should be. But I have to tell you, Mr. Agait, thinking about it right now, if they were to give me that in a brief right when they had a witness who could have said something and didn't, I don't want to commit myself, but I can imagine getting from somebody a motion saying that's a little late in the game and my granting it for the very reason that you're talking about. What do you think about them apples, Mr. Brady?
I think in response to what Mr. Agait said, there was a deadline for witness testimony. We did put in witness testimony on this. There's an upcoming deadline for rebuttal testimony. So to the extent Mr. Agait wishes to submit that, he certainly can. It's in the schedule. I don't know that that really has a bearing on the question here, which is whether to do a panel on debt during the hearing.
Well, here's what he's asking, and what I'm saying to you, I don't really want to see a proposed number from you in your proposed opinion, in your proposed order, when you could have done it in your in Dr. Tierney's testimony, Mr. Brady. What do you think of that?
I hear what you're saying.
I know you get what I'm saying. I guess I'm asking you whether you're planning on putting a number in your proposed order, or you're not going to do that, or you're going to decide that later.
I don't think I can speak to it right now, just because we got this agenda minutes
All right.
before the hearing, and there are many parties in this group. But
Okay.
but we will submit something by the Friday deadline that I think you had established to respond to this yesterday.
Okay, the Friday deadline meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Agradait, I hear what you're saying, and why don't you give me a couple of days to think about it based on the information that we get tomorrow? Okay, Mr. Did I just lose everybody? Am I still here?
Just for a minute. It cut out
Okay.
for a minute. You froze
Right.
for a minute, but you're back.
Mr. Agradait, what is your
That's
last
it.
word, sir?
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, that's the way we'll handle that. So I'll make a final decision about the debt panel after I get any final comments on that topic on Monday afternoon. Okay. I have the same question about the pension panel. Can I have, I apologize for not keeping track of names. Can I get the counsel for the pension? Mr. Emanuele, how are you, sir?
Yes, very good. And you?
Okay, so again, I in no way mean to be disrespectful to the question of pension. It's very important. As you know, the Energy Bureau has a rider on pension. But my question is, what would we learn from a pension panel that we don't already have in the record? Mr. Emanuele, what are your thoughts?
My understanding is that if there is no controversy about the money that is necessary to pay the pensions, there is nothing to learn.
Well,
Because-
the amount of, sorry, go ahead, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yes, because the amount of $307 million have not been controverted. So I understand that there is no controversy about that.
Well, let's see, we still have intervenor testimony due, right?
Yeah.
And we still have surrebuttal due.
Yes.
So I think what I'll do on that, well, anyway, you've answered my question that you see no new information to be brought out. The legal question as to whether the rates that the Bureau sets must include pension, that's a pure legal question. The amount is the amount. And that is where I'm tentatively standing right now, is that we don't need that panel, but why don't I wait until we see the next round of testimony? Is that okay with you, Mr. Emanuele?
It's okay. Excellent.
All right, thank you. Next, thank you for everybody's cooperation today. Next is that I am going to create a separate panel on emergency response plan. I'm going to bring that out from where I had assumed it would be, which is the transmission and distribution panel, because I believe, and I've been advised by my colleagues internally, that it is of such importance that we should make it its own panel. And to that panel, I'm going to require individuals from PREPA, LUMA, and GENERA. I had not intended to invite anybody else to that panel. And let me see if there's any reactions to that. Again, this won't be your last chance. Mr. Brady, something, or did you just show up because you're showing up?
I think it's just because I spoke recently.
Okay.
You are screen sharing still, so it's causing a little lag on my end.
Okay, well, I think I can, well, I wanted to save the agenda, but everybody has the agenda, so good point. Let's no longer screen share. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts? Well, 1 second, please. Pardon me while I straighten that little matter out. Okay, Ms. Vasquez, the subject I'm dealing with now is emergency response plan. Yes, Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, we just want to see if we can get a sense of what would be covered in the panel beforehand. We were, obviously, Genera was not going to be part of the transmission and distribution panel, so we just want some insight on what we should be ready to discuss in this panel.
Thank you very much. So let me make this commitment. I will get with my colleagues who are expert on this topic, and I will create, what is today, Thursday? I will create by Monday morning an informal summary of the topics that I would expect us to cover in that panel. Does that work for you, ma'am?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me make a note on that, please. Monday morning, I'm going to put something out informally. It's not going to be in order. I'll send an email, and what I would like in response to that is the proposed people, and I will give you a deadline for those proposed people. And the point here, as I understand it from my internal experts, is that while, and I know very little about this, unfortunately, while each of the three companies has its own obligations under the emergency response plan, coordination is essential to success. And I don't want to take that up in the separate panel on cooperative relations, because that's more a CEO level question of why is there such enmity among the companies that should be cooperating. But the ERP is really about technical coordination. So I'll get that clear for folks on Monday morning. Thank you for that, Ms. Vasquez. Something else from you, ma'am?
No, that'll be all. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, I just wanted to tell people that I was told by my internal colleagues that the generic name overhead and miscellaneous wasn't sufficiently respectful of this area, and so we're renaming it multi-utility cost areas, but that's also more precise and more clear, and it's what distinguishes those areas from the ones that are specific to T&D and specific to generation. So that's all that's about. Miss Chambers, something?
No, I was just putting my camera back on, but
Okay.
I can turn it off.
Okay, no, it's fine. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see, next, I know you all want to see specific agendas for the panel. I've been holding off because I wanted to get all the testimony in first, rather than put out multiple versions of it. So I commit to November 4th, an agenda for each panel. Now, that's not going to be the 100 questions that my colleagues have for the panel. It's going to be like I often have for our meetings. Maybe a 5 or 6 or maybe a 10-point agenda for the panel. And I'm going to ask people to be organizing their questions according to that panel. So for example, if we're on the panel of transmission and distribution, and we're talking about substation reliability, which is one of probably 6 or 7 subtopics within the substation topic, when Mr. Brady finishes his questions on substation reliability, I'm going to ask for the other questions on substation reliability so that we have the entire discussion of that subtopic at one spot in the transcript. That's the way it's going to go. And I will give people an opportunity to say I've left out items. You won't get much of an opportunity, maybe 24 hours, but that's what we'll do, November 4th. Now, the alternative is I put something out next week that's preliminary, and then you have 2 drafts and you get worried about it and lose one of them. If you would rather have 2 drafts, one's preliminary and one's final, you know, I'll put one out next week. Let me know on Monday if you feel strongly about that. It's not extra work for me because I have to do it anyway. Okay. Let's see, Ms. Mercado. Sorry, I wasn't looking over to that side of the screen. Welcome. What do you have for us? You're muted. And I can't see you. Maybe you didn't mean to raise your hand. Okay, well, I'll come back to you if there is something. I'll keep an eye on that part of the screen. Okay, so the last item, it's not the last item. The next item is potentially is worth discussing. So I had in mind having private meetings with some of the parties on the cross-examination plans. And let me tell you why I had that in mind. Right now, I think we are okay with timing. But I don't know that for sure because I don't know how many questions you all are going to ask. What I know I'm getting a feel for is what our consultants internally want to ask. And many of those questions will probably obviate parties' questions, but I don't know to what extent. And I don't want to start having, I know I already said we would do the first Saturday. I don't want to do that. I don't want to start using Saturdays until we have to. Frankly, I need the Saturdays, right, to prepare for the week. And I know you all need a rest and people have to travel. But I did want to meet with parties privately, particularly those who I think might have extensive cross, and ask why. Not skeptically, just out of curiosity. Can I tell you why? Because I read the 34 questions that you asked of the Smith-Dady panel, Ms. Chambers, Ms. Mercado, and your team, and I started scratching my head wondering why we have so many questions about a piece of work that is not particularly controversial. And it made me wonder, are we going to have a lot of cross-examination questions that we don't really need? But this is really a due process question, right? The question is whether you trust me to keep those conversations to a level of generality that doesn't involve me in their strategies, in people's strategies. And that's it. So any comments on that for now? Okay. Well, I know that that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. So I'd like to give you till Monday to tell me that you have a real problem with this. And if you have a real problem with it, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to start hearing a lot of legal research and looking up cases to find out whether I'm allowed to do this or not. Either I get full agreement or I don't. So Monday afternoon. I am reminded, years ago, there was a FERC ALJ, administrative law judge, who invited counsel in privately to tell him all about their cross-examination strategy so he could follow along and enjoy it. I never did it when I was a judge. I wasn't even tempted to, but that's the end of that conversation. Anything on that? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm just trying. So are you mostly interested in like how much questioning, an estimate of time? So.
Well, let's play it out, Ms. Chambers. On the estimate of time, I've already asked somebody to collect all that information. I think it was Mr. Brady by a particular date. Is that right, Mr. Brady?
So I'm keeping track of the no cross witnesses, the people who may not have to appear at all. I don't think I'm doing the time allocations.
Okay, I think you're exactly right. Give me 1 second to look at my well, my notes simply say that somewhere between the 1st and the 10th of November, I'm going to receive cross-ex proposed times, but and then I will then issue an order. This is that document that sort of has my list of things I have to do, but I don't have any order on this yet. Oh, let's just play it out, Ms. Chambers. No, I think the meeting would go something like this. I would ask you, so what do you think, Ms. Chambers? What's your team planning on? And you'd say, 10 hours. And after I picked my jaw up off the floor, I would then ask you to say, what on earth are you planning on doing for 10 hours? And you would explain to me, well, I've got a problem with so-and-so said such and such, and I've got a problem with somebody else said such and such. And I would be asking, and I would listen to that, and I would say, oh, I got it. Yeah, you're going to need all that time. Or I might say to you, what on earth are you going to do with that information when you get it? And that's starting to sound like we're having a private conversation that leads to a ruling, which I would love to have, but I'm asking if anybody would object to that happening. So that answers your question, Ms. Chambers. That's the reason for the conversation. Is that yes, it could end up with you. It could end up with you. 1 second. The conversation could end up with your persuading me that it was a great idea, or it could end up with me persuading you that it's a lousy idea. And that would be the reason for the conversation, so that we don't have to have it when 10 witnesses are sitting there on a panel waiting for the game to start. That was my reasoning. And if somebody objects to it, like I said, I'll drop the idea. Does that help you follow, Ms. Chambers?
Yes, and obviously, I was just trying to figure out if we could shortcut it, since we have a lot to do between now and the hearing, if we had shorter time periods potentially. But I'll take it back and discuss with the client. Thank you.
I didn't understand what you said about shorter time periods. Do I need to understand
Well,
that part of it?
when you said 10 hours, but if we're talking like less, I don't know
Right.
how much worth the investment is
Right.
for both of us. So
I
I'll
got
take it back to the client.
All right.
Thanks.
I mean, I'll tell you, Ms. Chambers, and this does relate to you, to a lesser extent, to Genera. It just struck me that there isn't much in the intervener testimony that struck me as terribly inconvenient to Luma. And frankly, well, you don't know what's going to happen with T&D because there's no consultant report, which is its own matter. But it didn't strike me that putting aside rate design, where I think we have a quite elevated, erudite, and useful conversation between some very, very knowledgeable people, between your Mr. Shannon and our Mr. Ming. And I expect we'll have a very interesting panel on that. But I frankly didn't find much going on in the intervener testimony that would keep anybody from Luma up at night. So I'm going to be surprised if there's a high number coming from you, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. And that was the reason for the conversation. Yeah, if you don't think there's any big issues, then maybe we don't have to have the conversation. And as for Ms.
I haven't seen the rebuttal yet, so it was hard to say until after we see that. But I appreciate your insights.
Right. Well, the rebuttal from the interveners is only to the PREP consultant reports. It's not to you.
Right.
Not to you.
That's true.
And so, Ms. Vasquez, of course, there's a substantial amount of testimony from Mr. Justo Gonzalez, and you'll get the time that you need to do the examination of him. But I will ask at some point for an estimate. And I think the good news is his report is sufficiently targeted that you have targets to shoot at. And so I don't want you to worry about this conversation. You'll get the time that you need. Just plan to be efficient. Ms. Vasquez, anything?
No.
Okay. All right. So lastly, what I want to promise to you is that on Monday, by end of day, I will put out, and I'm not going to do this. I don't know that I'm going to do it via an order. I might. I'm going to put out a new list of panels because we've talked about eliminating at least 2 today. I'm going to put out a new list of panels with a new list of likely date ranges so that people have the best information they can as of now. Okay, again, these are date ranges. I can't promise anything. But they give us something to shoot for, and that's what I'll do on Monday. Okay, end of day. Mr. Brady.
Yes, this is just based on something you said when we were on the last topic. I noticed in the last panel roster that there was a PREP consultant, Mr. Schiffman, on the T&D panel, but I think just now you said there wouldn't be a PREP consultant. So I was wondering, will he be sitting on that panel?
1 second. I know that is a source of confusion. I'm responsible for that confusion. Give me 1 second to get that document in front of me. Okay, let me give you a straight answer, Mr. Brady. First of all, it is possible that Mr. Schiffman will be on that panel. Okay? That's what I can tell you right now. Now, trust me, he's not going to be there talking about something that's not on the record. All right? Because that we can't have, but I'm not going to let anybody else do that. Okay? Well, I'm not going to let anybody else do it unless I decide it's okay, in which case I'll have to figure out how to give everybody the rights that they deserve. Okay? But there will also be on that panel, and I see that I've got a redlined version here that you might not have yet. Also on that panel will be Ms. Catherine Bailey. People know her as Kate Bailey because she did provide a expert report. Yes, I hope you're nodding yes. There is a published expert report authored by Catherine Bailey and Harry Judd. And one or both, and that report relates to the integration of renewable energy into the transmission system. And what it's really about, again, I'm just summarizing, what it's really about is the need to think carefully that while we are refurbishing and fixing and adding to the transmission system for reliability purposes and resiliency purposes and hardening purposes, let's make sure that we're conscious that we're supposed to reach a particular level of renewables by 2050, and let's make sure we're coordinating those two things. So one or both of Ms. Bailey and Mr. Judd will be on that panel because they are expert report writers. Unless somebody says that nobody wants to examine them, and I decide or the commissioners decide they don't need to appear. But right now, my expectation is that they'll be there. Does that answer your question, Mr. Brady, for now?
It does, and we did receive the Bailey and Judd report.
All right. Okay, colleagues, I'm done with my agenda, and I'm very thankful for this afternoon. Does anybody have anything they want to say or add? Okay, I can tell you that the commissioners are very appreciative of the efforts that people are making during a difficult time. And I wish Ms. Chambers.
You have something here on the list of issues requiring confidential session. Are you going to put that in your order for Monday?
Okay. Sorry, thank you for being alert. I skipped that.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure I understand what we're supposed to do.
What this is about is, let's see. I have not given you a deadline yet, but sometime between it's on this list of, my to-do list for the next couple of weeks. On the list for November 1st to 10th is my receiving from you all your information that you can give us about what you're going to need to do confidentially. So I have to ask you for that, and you have to give it to me, and then we'll know. Okay. So be thinking ahead. Sorry. That's all that was about. Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Does anybody have anything they want to add for this afternoon? Okay. Thank you for a very efficient meeting. Good luck, everybody. Stay in touch, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.